I'm Al Reese.
I'm Anna Safford.
And this is ModPoMinute, actually 5 minutes.
We're hoping to scratch the surface of a short poem that we like.
So let's get started.
So we're here in the Writer's House Garden. I'm with Jamie Foo.
Hi, I'm a master's student at Penn's English Graduate School. Yeah.
Awesome. And we're going to talk about the poem, a poem by Audre Lorde called either Recreation or Recreation.
Yeah.
We're going to figure out which one it is.
Okay.
2 possible readings there. So I'll read it and then we'll talk about it. Recreation. Coming together, it is easier to work after our bodies meet. Paper and pen neither care nor profit, whether we write or not, but as your body moves under my hands, charged and waiting, we cut the leash. You create me against your thighs, hilly with images, moving through our word countries. My body writes into your flesh the poem you make of me. Touching you, I catch midnight as moon fire set in my throat. I love you flesh into blossom. I made you and take you made into me.
So like
Sexy poem.
Yes, it is. I was thinking of recreation and recreation, like the 2 readings that you can have of the word,
Sure.
and how Audre Lorde actually has these 2 meanings in her poem as well. So if you think of recreation, I was thinking about like the act of creating again and again,
Yes.
and recreation as like parks and rec, like leisure. You know?
Right.
And there's this line in the poem where she says, neither care nor profit. So is poetry like an act of leisure for her or a work?
Yeah. Well, there is that sort of element of work, but I think there's also an element of the recreation as, like you said, creating again, but also as a creative process,
Yes.
right? And clearly there's some, like she says in the beginning, coming together. It is easier to work after our bodies meet. So my reading of those initial lines is it's easier to write poems after she and her lover have been together.
Yeah. There's this element of like sensuality and sexuality that's
Totally,
inside her
yeah.
poem, and there's actually an essay by Audre Lorde where she talks about erotic as power and how it flows through and colors her life with this kind of energy, and that's what I see in this poem as well. Like the sexual aspects of her life are not distinguished from the act of writing a poem.
Absolutely, yeah. So in that sense, it becomes a kind of metapoetic poem, right? She says later on, my body writes into your flesh the poem you make of me.
Yeah, the body. So there's no distinction between the body of the poem and the body itself, especially when she says, but as your body moves under my hands. So I was thinking about how we always call works like a body of work.
Yeah.
But as well as like over here, she's also talking about the body of her lover.
Yes.
So for these 2, sex and like writing poems for her are actually one and the same.
Absolutely, yeah. There's the way that the poem sort of takes shape under her hands,
yeah.
just like the way that she sort of moves her hands over her lover's body. That's a beautiful reading of that moment.
There's also a question that I had about recreation.
Sure.
So another theme that I spotted in this poem was about reciprocity. So she's making so the last 3 lines, I made you and take you made into me. So I made you is an act of giving, but and take you is an act of receiving. But the fact that she has already been made, she has already made her lover, means that there's this blurring of distinctions between who is making and who is giving.
Yeah.
So can that also be said about our reading of poems in general? We don't know whether the poet is making us or we are making the poem. Or the poem is making us or we are making the poem.
That's such an incredible reading of that line. I totally agree. The poems that I think are sort of the most exciting, the most, as she says, charged and waiting.
Oh yeah.
I think are the poems that invite that act of creation on the part of the reader, right? The reader is involved in the process of making the meaning from the poem, just like Audre Lorde herself is giving us something, and we're receiving it, and we're also giving it.
So like the title recreation is not just the poet, and it's also the reader who's recreating the meanings.
Yeah.
When we are reading the poem as an act of recreation.
Yeah.
Recreation.
Yeah, absolutely. And each time you read, right? Like, I don't know if you've ever had this experience, but for me, sometimes when I read this poem, there's things about it that stick out to me more than in other times. Like this time, I was particularly struck by in the kind of middle of the first stanza, the oppositions, right? Neither care nor profit, whether we write or not.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. What do you make of those oppositions?
Care no. Well, like what I was saying just now, I was thinking more generally in terms of she doesn't really care about work, writing poetry as a kind of work.
Sure.
Yeah, but then again, it's kind of ironic because this poem is almost as if like sex is also a kind of labor in itself.
Yeah.
So there are different kinds of laboring that's happening.
Yep.
Yeah, but well, talking about profit, Audre Lorde has always been very interested in like economies of writing, as well as poetry as a very economical way of writing.
Sure.
So she critiqued Virginia Woolf's concept of a rule of one's own once by saying that, well, you can write a rule of one's own is only like applicable for people who write prose because you have to think about like the material conditions of writing, and poetry is a very economical way of writing for coloured women who are poorer. And I wonder if like the idea of profit is somehow linked to that concept of
Probably.
writing poetry.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Jamie. This is great.
This is the end.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you liked this episode, watch another and subscribe.
And join us for ModPo, a free and open course at modpo.org.